Yeah, really. Hey everybody, welcome to Wrestling with Wrestling. We have a little Wyatt family here. It's the post WrestleMania Raw edition, and with me as always is my usual cohort, Doc Gregory. How's it going, Doc?
I'm just a little crazy over here, I'm just calming down from an excellent WrestleMania weekend. And my God, did I ever come off of a huge WrestleMania weekend with an excellent Raw. But I tell you, we'll get into that a little bit later. It's crazy, I'm telling you. I couldn't believe it. And none other did I have you over at the house. And I tell you, it could be nothing. It was a special WrestleMania weekend for me. WrestleMania 30, Steve Shives in the house. It couldn't get any better. In KFC with some beer, hey.
What the fuck is going on with that voice? You started out sounding like you were attempting a British thing, and now you're like from the Bronx. And special guest this week, the great Dick Coughlan. How's it going, Dick?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you.
Yes. I'm very excited to be here.
Good to be here.
Yes.
I'm supposed to give you a message before we get started, Steve, from Edible Napalm.
Okay.
He said that he's such a big fan of it. He said he would probably blow you. That was what he told me about an hour ago.
Wow.
So if you see him around, run.
Okay.
Or still, it depends what mood you're in. But
I'll keep it in mind, whatever kind of day I'm having, whenever that happens.
Just wanted to throw to start with.
It's always good to begin a wrestling show with some blowjob humor.
You should feel really special because
we're about to talk for an hour and a half about muscly men in oil in their underpants touching each other. So it's the place to get going.
Right, exactly. Let's do it right away.
Yeah, my book, the only guy I would ever blow would be William Shatner. So having a guy say that he would blow you're pretty famous out there. But it's William Shatner. Could you imagine that man?
We don't want to go the road to a conversation before we get.
We'll save the people we would blow for the end of the show. We'll talk about that later.
I'll plummet this right downhill. Yeah.
So, this will probably be a little bit more of a free-form show than we usually do. Not that we're like sticking to a format slavishly most weeks, but it was a big WrestleMania, and it was a big, some might say, an even bigger episode of Raw the night after. So let's just get started. Doc, you and I watched the show together, so I think we sort of know what the other thinks, but let's talk about it anyway. I'll start with you, Doc. Just general thoughts on WrestleMania 30? What did you think of the show?
I thought that it was probably one of the best WrestleManias I had seen in years. They had that tease that they are actually listening to the fans and they're going in a certain direction now, pushing the younger generation and just making their current roster viable contenders to that younger generation. WrestleMania was a tease to that, and but wow, surreal, shocking, epic. It was exciting. It was probably like I said, everything I could want in WrestleMania. It was nice to see some new stars rise and some great matches that night.
Dick, what did you think of the show?
I'm pretty much where Doc is. I thought it was. I think for me, it's like when I watch it, it's like a lot of fans when they watch wrestling, they always want to get the result they want every time. And I don't want that. So what I want is I want to feel something going. And I think on the whole of being ups and downs in the show, I mean, if you take the obvious one of Daniel Bryan winning and the other obvious one of Undertaker losing, then what you've got there are two moments where you were on that roller coaster going through the show. They started the show with Triple H, Daniel Bryan, which I didn't think they would do, and you start off high, and then you carry on a bit, and then you're sort of with Undertaker, you're just suddenly like and then you're like, right, you wanted that ending even more to win, and it's like most wrestling, isn't it? It's like you argue about it, who's going to win is like the main event, and then it's all obvious at the end, isn't it? When you're like, of course he was going to win. Of course he was going to. It's so obvious they were never going to let Batista or Randy Orton win or anything. So, but yeah, I thought it was. They did it right. They proved once again what most wrestling fans don't want to admit, that they are smarter than us because they already know the result. Really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked it. Yeah.
I liked it a lot too. The thing that I noticed about it is that I feel like WrestleMania has kind of been this way for the last few years, but this year especially, it felt like it wasn't an enjoyable show so much because it had a lot of great matches. It was because it had some really like you just said, Dick. It gets you emotionally. Like there were big moments. Like that Undertaker Brock match was not really a great wrestling match when you look at it.
Awful.
It was a terrible match, but it had that moment at the end where your jaw just drops. You're like, holy shit, did they just beat the Undertaker?
They could have done anything. It didn't matter. The match was awful because that.
Right.
If anything, the fact that the match was awful made that moment even more shocking. Because like we'd been led to believe that Brock Lesnar could. There was nothing that made you believe Brock Lesnar was going to win this match. So we're all just sat there, and like with that third F5, we're sat there going, okay, he's going to kick out. He did, and you're always sat there going, okay, a ref's going to come down and reverse the decision. Something happened here. Something's wrong. Undertaker must have accidentally died. But this is badly wrong here. There's going to be and it wasn't. I mean, that poor black geezer who's never going to live down that photo of him like gawping at the result. He bet his whole bankroll on the Undertaker. You can just know he was at the betting shop going, yeah, or put the whole mortgage on the Undertaker. It's just
I don't. If anybody bet on Brock though, they must have won a fucking pile off of that.
My mate did. My mate did, and he got 33 to 1 odds. He put a tenner on Brock Lesnar, won 330 quid. So he was the only person. If he'd have been there, he'd have been the only person.
I know.
Got beaten up.
I watched it over at Doc's place, and we were just like all those people in the Superdome, just like, oh, what the fuck just happened?
Mm-hmm. But I can honestly tell you that with the way the Undertaker's performance was that night, that he performed in a way that it was almost believable that someone like Brock Lesnar was capable of beating him, because he turned out one of the shittiest performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was the worst Undertaker days.
It was worse.
In his defense, the news was breaking today that he got the concussion he got was like 5 minutes into the match. Yeah. Like Brock Lesnar did a leg drag and he bashed his head. I mean, if you get a concussion that bad, and apparently for the whole match he didn't know where he was, and Brock Lesnar was pretty much carrying the whole match there, and you kind of, and let's be honest, with Brock Lesnar, I mean, if it had been a real fight, Brock Lesnar would have won that in 10 seconds, right? Maybe 12 if Undertaker had tried running away, right? But it's like Lesnar win. I think it's just the fact that if Brock Lesnar was 25 and it had been the old Brock Lesnar, like before he was in UFC when he was still full time, then it would have been different. But it's the fact this was part-time Lesnar. That I mean, Lesnar's more full time than the Undertaker, really. I mean, but I mean, yeah, I think that was it. I mean, it's hard to sort of believe that. It's hard to believe anyone would, but I think if Brock Lesnar went full time, he would be champion forever. You know, because he's just there's no way I can believe anyone would beat him in anything really.
Well, that's my one thing with that is if. I know that the backstory behind that is that Undertaker had said years ago that if anybody would ever beat the streak, he would like it to beat Brock Lesnar, and to me that was his nod toward Brock Lesnar because he obviously allowed it. That's the way the finish was supposed to go. But to me, is like that gives that push to Brock Lesnar. That is a huge win, and you're not dedicated to the schedule that comes with the win you were just handed. And that's the one thing that worries me. Your limited schedule, that's one thing that's what keeps me on the fence of why Brock, I thought, as a fan, didn't deserve to be that guy to beat The Undertaker, because his limited schedule, it to me, doesn't prove to me, that he's that guy. But if he's going to be that guy because he's already done it, you got to show me now that you're dedicated to that schedule.
You do wonder. I do wonder whether they did this, whether this was part of the thing, saying maybe we can tempt Brock to go full time, or maybe double his schedule at least, so we could at least get him. If we give him, you can have the streak and all that, but in return, just to see if. But I mean, the problem is there is the question of. I kind of like the fact it ended this way, because if either it doesn't end, which is I think a waste of a thing there, because it doesn't matter whether it doesn't end or not, because it's still the streak is still the streak there. But if you have it so that it's obvious he's going to lose, like he fights John Cena next, if he fought John Cena and it was like, right, if I beat you, you have to retire or something like that, then you're like, well, he's obviously going to lose. This is obviously going to be. It's like the retirement match with Shawn Michaels. You knew Shawn Michaels was going to lose. Or when Ric Flair fought Shawn Michaels, you knew Ric Flair was. And I think beating him means more, or it's going to be more of a big moment if you do it when it was least expected, rather than having it obvious that someone was going to beat him.
Yeah, I think I don't even know that Brock necessarily has to even go back to being a full-time guy on the roster. I think if they, and it doesn't even have to be next month, it could be at SummerSlam, but if they use the streak ending to push Brock into, even if he gets like a world title program with Daniel Bryan, and that is like a big major program, I think you could say that it was worth it to put him over and end the streak. Because I mean, the thing about having Brock be the guy to beat Undertaker is, to me, it almost instantly rehabilitates Brock from being booked kind of unevenly his first year back, where he loses to Cena his first match, and then he kind of trades back and forth with Triple H. Like, a lot of us were hoping they would bring Brock in and he would just be a fucking monster and he would just kill everything in his path until eventually that one guy beat him, and they didn't do that. He kind of came in and he lost to Cena, he lost to Triple H, but now it's like you completely erase all of that. Now he really is legitimately over as a badass. He's the only guy to ever beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Now, if you can take that and move him finally into a world title program, I mean, in a way, that by itself makes it worth it. He doesn't even have to come back and be a full-time guy.
I'm imagining he won't come back. He won't come back until at least a few months, because I'm imagining that's why they've put Paul Heyman now with Cesaro, to give Paul Heyman something to do. In the few months, because now if Brock Lesnar goes away, why does Paul Heyman stay around? So he needs someone else to stay around with. But yeah, it I mean, I think him going. I mean, you got to believe with Daniel Bryan, they're just going to throw. This is going to be. Basically, with Daniel Bryan, you've got a guy who, I mean, Cena's always been booked as the underdog, is the problem, and it's hard to believe Cena as an underdog in any scenario because he's won so much. With Daniel Bryan, you've got a natural underdog. No matter who you put him up against, pretty much, he's going to be, you're going to believe that he's going to be up against it because he's so small and out of sort of like, and he hasn't got the stature of the other guys. So like they're going to book him that way, and they're going to basically throw. I can already see Extreme Rules. They're going to do a rematch, triple threat rematch, but it'll be a hardcore triple threat rematch, and maybe Triple H will insert himself as the ref or whatever, and it'll be like, do you remember what was it? Do you remember Dude Love versus Steve Austin at Over the Edge? That kind of thing. I can see them going for like just pushing that, because there was the moment last night when I said this, the moment when the Shield came down last night to help Daniel Bryan, it was very reminiscent of when Mick Foley won the belt and DX were there. And DX came down and helped him. It was very reminiscent of that when you had the Corporation versus DX and all that, and Austin came down. It had sort of that echoes of that with that.
Yeah, it feels a lot like that, but it's different enough that it doesn't feel like they're just redoing the same old shit that they did 15 years ago. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about some other aspects of WrestleMania. I want to talk about the opening segment before the first match where Rock and Austin and Hogan were all in the ring together. Let's start with you, Doc. What did you think of that, the opening segment?
Well, Hulk Hogan came out and he's doing what he is being paid to do these days, which is represent the WWE, the past, the present, the future, push the network, and he did a good job of that. And he did some of his usual one-liners, and then, of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin's music hits, and he, of course, comes down and plays off things that he knows works with the fans, and then said his piece toward Hulk Hogan, which was cool. And as you know, because you were sitting in the room, because I said it would be funny as hell if The Rock's music hit, and sure enough, The Rock came down, and it was just a whole bunch of nostalgia, top tier stars, and and I think it was a feel-good moment for the fans, and yeah, it worked. You know, like I said, I thought for so to for as a whole, the WWE WrestleMania 30 was great, and even some of those vignettes like that one, it worked. There was a few more that actually talked about that I would like to see that I did get to see for WrestleMania 30. So yeah, great one-liners, and I I like Stone Cold Steve Austin's reaction with Hulk Hogan, because he teased actually kicking Hulk Hogan's ass, and the fans responded to that, and you know that's not going to happen because both of them are broken down old men, and they don't want to wrestle anymore. So Rock's the only one. So if that was a triple threat, The Rock would have kicked the shit out of both of them. So
I remember right after Austin came out, before Rock ever came out, Austin and Hogan are in the ring together, and I turned to Doc and I said, I know there's no chance in hell this ever happens, but if Hogan eats a stunner, this is already the best WrestleMania ever. And of course, that was never going to happen. But Dick, what did you think of the three-way between Rock and Hogan and Austin?
I thought the great thing about doing it all at the start was because generally what you've had before is you have these bits in between. I think this really was a WrestleMania where it was actually about the wrestling and the matches. You didn't get much. You didn't get any backstage promos really. You just got a few video bits. You had a few bits like the little clip, the little thing with Hacksaw and Sergeant Slaughter, and then there was the little meet up with Mr. T and Paul Orndorff and that. But they were really, really short on that, and there was none of these major bits in between. And just by having that all at the start and getting it out of the way and just saying, let's go full over. So let's just give them. No one will be expecting this. I mean, it was fun. Hogan's botches at the start was good when he was stumbling. I think it's because he walked out and he's looking at the front row thinking that's a TNA house show in the front row, right? This is like,
Right.
this is like this whole. Every fan that's ever seen me in TNA could be fitted into this bloody building at the moment. And so he came out and he was like. He seemed a little bit overexcited and nervous. They didn't really use him that much, though, because of course, which I thought was strange. And he hasn't actually. I was surprised to not see him. I know he looks kind of silly now because he's so old, but I was surprised not to see him pose at any point. Like I wasn't surprised not to see him drag out thing. Maybe it's a bit sort of. It's not really Austin's cup of tea, but I was surprised not to see him at least rip the shirt off at some point or start doing the old flexing. But apart from that, I think having them three at the start, it sort of just got all the nostalgia out of the way. It's like, you don't need any more than that. We've got Hogan, we've got basically the Attitude Era, just gone now. Now let's do all the wrestling. And that's what it was, what the point of that was.
Yeah, I really like that too. I like the fact that it was, after that point, it was really a show about the current guys and building the newer guys. And it wasn't as much. It was total nostalgia for like that first 20 minutes, and then after that, it kind of just made a clean break and went straight ahead. What about? And I know Doc, you and I were pleasantly surprised by this. What about Cesaro winning that battle royal with no build up to his involvement really at all? But it was
where the hell did you come from, man? It's like. I made predictions that the Big Show was going to win that thing, and the Big Show was one of the last of the two people left in that ring. But you had a wild card. I had no clue that Cesaro was going to be a part of that battle royal. And if I had insight on that, maybe I would have chose differently. But I was pleasantly surprised. Battle Royal went over very well. It lasted long enough because usually if you catch a Battle Royal on a Raw, and it's mostly a Diva Battle Royal or a Tag Team Battle Royal, it usually lasts for about 5 minutes. So they gave this Battle Royal some ample time, and it was really good. Saw some faces that were unannounced in there because you saw me count. I was like, is that David Otunga in there? It's like, is that Brad Maddox? What the hell's he doing? I was like, what the hell's he doing in there? It's like, really, does Brad Maddox, who has not wrestled all fucking year long, deserve to be in the Andre Memorial Battle Royal? I think not. You know, it's great to just pick some indie star who's been busting his ass all year long, besides Brad Maddox, who's been sitting on, what we know, on a desk job all year long. But yeah, Cesaro came out of nowhere, won the Battle Royal. Epic body slam. It was really good. It's not a Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant body slam because Big Show did Post. He did Post.
Yes.
And tossed him over the top rope. But kudos, man. I think that epic push that he got at WrestleMania was well worth it. So we've been waiting for that because he has been getting over with the crowd for so long. Now it is time to run that ball with him and see what he can do.
Yeah. Dick, what do you think of the Battle Royal?
To me, it was like, let's have a 30-man battle royale because we fucked up the Royal Rumble, so let's do it again. And that was like bugging the Royal. Let's have this. Let's sort of try and sort of redeem that. But the thing is like the Royal Rumble. Let's face it, it was kind of a thing that I was kind of looking forward to it, but I kind of thought it is kind of meaningless, but it's only going to have meaning if they give it to someone who's like people desperate to win. And the thing is, I was looking at this thinking like, when Cesaro on the flag, because I thought if Cesaro's not in this, that means you've had a WrestleMania where Rosa Mendes and Eva Marie have been in a WrestleMania main card, and Cesaro hasn't been on the main card.
Yeah.
Or you'd have had Brad Maddox has been in a WrestleMania match, and I kind of like it. So I think he's funny. It's just he's got a pointless job. But yeah, I thought it was the best way to do it. It kind of felt like it was one of those moments. It felt like for all the people who've been since like for the last year have just been sort of cheering the guys who for all the marks who have been in the crowd, like booing the Cenas and booing the Ortons and booing the Batistas. It was like, we're going to give you all this now, right? We're going to give you everything you want, and then you'll still piss and moan about it. You know, it's like, and then. Because that's what will happen. In 5 years' time, everyone will be pissing and moaning about Daniel Bryan, going, "Oh, when's he going to put the young guys over?" And then same with Cesaro and the Shield and all that. But it'll go around in circles. But yeah, I thought it was the best. It was the best op. They could have gone with Dolph Ziggler. Would have been just as much. And they could have gone with Cody Rhodes. Would have been just as good. But I think that made sense, really, considering that Cesaro has been that guy that everyone's been cheering for them to do something with.
Yeah, it was encouraging to me because one of my big criticisms of the show over almost the last year, I guess, has been certainly it hasn't been the talent. The talent is amazing, but it seems like they up until now, hopefully, they've been really reluctant to pull the trigger on guys or to get behind and really push guys that the fans are getting behind. And now it seems like they've finally sort of turned that corner. And seeing them get behind Cesaro and give him such a prominent spot on WrestleMania, because Cesaro is another one of those guys like Daniel Bryan, not at that level quite yet, but where like the fans don't give a shit if he's a face or a heel. They think he's awesome, and they're gonna chant chant for him and pop for his spots and cheer for him, and they don't care whether he's a baby face or not. And they've been sort of reluctant to get behind those guys in the past, and now it seems like with WrestleMania and then with last night's Raw, it's like maybe, hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed. They're finally getting the message and saying, you know what, fuck it, we're going to go with this and see what happens.
Do you think maybe they were reluctant to get behind him, or they're literally that much smarter than us that they thought, no, we'll give them like WrestleMania 30. We'll make that the turning, sort of like the changing of the guard, so to speak.
Well,
we'll make that the moment where the young guys go, like the Shield will go over pretty easily. The Cesaro will push Daniel Bryan. We'll give Daniel Bryan the biggest push you could give. We'll make him look stronger than anyone. And just because that's what it felt like to me. It's like maybe they was just thinking, let's do it all in one night, and then that will make it all. We'll give them. Say, right, you've got WrestleMania 30. Go out there and do it.
I do think that it's reasonable to think that. I mean, because I do think that like a lot of the internet smart marks don't give the company nearly enough credit for knowing what they're doing. Because like for instance, with the a match we haven't talked about yet, with the Cena versus Bray Wyatt stuff, that whole program I thought was awesome. I thought it was incredibly well built. I thought it led up to I thought the match was a little flat at the end at WrestleMania, but the whole program was just excellent. It was my favorite part of the show for like a month. And that seems to have pretty much gone according to plan. And they were great at that. And then with the Daniel Bryan, Batista, Randy Orton, Triple H stuff, once they sort of settled down and committed to Bryan being the top guy going into WrestleMania, they did everything right. I mean, once they made that transition on that episode of Raw where, you know, the fans took over the ring and they officially booked Bryan versus Triple H with the winner getting into the main event, like from that point forward, they did everything right. And every criticism you could have made about the show creatively before that, how they did so many stops and starts with Bryan, and they tried to move him into different feuds that nobody cared about, and all the things they were doing that looked like they were fucking up. That all was completely in the past. Once they committed to it, they knew exactly what to do. So yeah, I mean, maybe they were just intentionally kind of fucking around because they wanted to save everything for the big WrestleMania payoff.
Well, I mean, that's the sort of thing everyone knew about Daniel Bryan, is he's someone you don't need to do anything with him. Just say, go on, this is your thing. Go and do your thing. You don't need to. It's like you don't need to do anything with, like. That's the thing about the great wrestlers, is you don't. With Batista, you know, he's not bad. I've never been a Batista fan, but with Batista, you've got to give him something to do. You've got to sort of. He's always come across as a bit sort of fake to me, as I've never really sort of bought into it. But with the great wrestlers like you know. And I'll even put Cena in this, saying you don't need to sort of you don't need to give them a fucking, you know, you don't need to sort of give them everything to do. Just like go out there, right? You've got 20 minutes, 15 minutes, go and do your thing, and they'll work it out because they know what they're doing, you know.
Yeah. Doc, you're a big Batista fan, right?
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely huge on it. Matter of fact, I'm going out tomorrow evening because I have a scheduled appointment to get my belly button pierced.
Can I just think, like, of all the things that I hated, the one thing I hated, because it's not because I wear them, right? But it's not, I agree, he looks ridiculous. But the people banging on about his skinny jeans, I'm like, wrestling fans of all people are the last people who need to fucking sit there and go, you know, there's like who need to go on about other people's clothing. You know, like, when did we become such fashionites? Going, oh, he's wearing skinny jeans and he's 45 years old. Oh, it's ridiculous. This is wrestling T-shirts out. You know, I bet, you know, every wrestling fan. You know, I've done it myself. You go out and someone says, "What is that T-shirt about?" and you lie because you're embarrassed to say what it is. You know,
I bought this at a yard sale. I don't even know what it means.
Yeah, first off, I'm my belly button tattoo, and if anybody ever knocks my fanny pack, I'm going to kick him right in the mouth.
Well, he's nicking Billy Gunn's gimmick with the pierced belly button. No, see, Shawn Michaels was the first one to get his belly button pierced. Then it was Billy Gunn, and it's all the queer bait has been.
It's a proud tradition. It's a proud WWF tradition. Let's talk a little bit about that Cena versus Bray Wyatt match at WrestleMania, because that was the one I was, other than the main event stuff, that's the one I was looking forward to the most. And I mean, I certainly didn't think it was bad, and it came out the way I thought it would. I called that Cena would win, even though I figured they would make Bray look really strong, which they did. But I don't know, Doc. I'm interested in your opinion as a veteran of the ring, and I kind of felt like that match was like the finish of that match was a little flat. Like I could tell where they were going. I could tell what story they were telling with Cena, you know, like resisting the turn to the dark side and all that. But I'm not sure if they quite got that over as well as they could have.
Well, they compared John Cena, and they did it earlier in the evening. They compared the John Cena as we see today as the Hulk Hogan of yesterday, and they gave him that comparison earlier in the evening. And John Cena does not have the build-up that Hulk Hogan did to show that I just came back from some of the biggest moves to overcome adversity and win this match. I mean, Hogan had a whole kind of trilogy of things he would do to show that, you know, he's about to win this matchup. John Cena just doesn't have that. And just seeing, you know, I honestly thought that Bray Wyatt controlled the majority of that match, and he did a really good job. John Cena, just in comparison, does not have the wrestling. Honestly, I don't think so. I think John Cena is better than what you see him on TV, but I don't think he has the wrestling ability that Bray Wyatt has at this time, and it showed. He controlled the majority of the match, and he came out kind of looking like just the Superman. He pulls out Superman moves and overcomes adversity, and eventually just gets his turns beaten down, but just keeps coming back until he wins. And it's a Hogan style.
Yeah. The thing that impressed me about that match was just how much of a natural Bray Wyatt seemed. I mean, he's been given great promos like for months now, and he's been getting better and better in the ring. And I just thought during that match with Cena, I even turned to you at one point, Doc, and I said, it's like he's been wrestling for 20 years.
Yep.
I mean, he's so young. He's only been on the main roster for about a year. And he's so in that match with John Cena at WrestleMania, this big high pressure spot, and he just was totally into his gimmick and into his persona and completely at ease. He was like John to the ref, and he was taking his time and playing with the fans, and he just, I mean, you wouldn't think that was his first big match. You know what I mean? You would think that this was his third or fourth WrestleMania, as at home and at ease as he seemed. What did you think of the Cena versus Wyatt stuff there, Dick?
I thought I called John Cena to win as well, mainly because I felt that first of all the build-up. I felt John Cena was made to look the one that was less in control of it, and you felt that this feud's got legs. And the one problem with the feud is it is basically a carbon copy of what they did when he fought Kane. And it was Kane, but except Kane was like, embrace the hate, John Cena, embrace the hate, and Bray Wyatt's like, let your monster come out. But Bray Wyatt's more believable than Kane, and plus we'd seen Kane for so long. But Bray Wyatt, in my opinion, is a fucking genius, and it's like people talk about how great Jake the Snake Roberts was with ring psychology. I think Bray Wyatt's every bit that and more. I think he's got that character that will go on, and I mean it's unlike the Shield, for example. You've got the Shield. It's like Shield are three separate wrestlers. The Wyatt family is Bray Wyatt. With that, and it's like I just love little things that he does, like the bit when he just grabs the ropes and just bends his back right over, or when he jumps up into the crab position. It's those little bits and pieces that will just sort of make you sort of. And he's so odd. I mean, like he laughs when he gets beaten. He just, and it's like he's got an agenda that's like he doesn't care, because they said it in the build-up. The other giveaway was they talked about he doesn't care about winning or losing. He just cares about, and that was the big clue that he was probably gonna believe. But when you're in a match with John Cena at WrestleMania, you've already won, and you're in his position. You've been there a year. You've already won at that point. You've already got there. All you have to do is go out there and prove that you were worthy of having a match with John Cena at WrestleMania. Because bearing in mind, this is an amazing statistic. This is only the second match John Cena has had at WrestleMania that wasn't for the title. The other one was against The Rock. Every other match he's had at WrestleMania was for a title, once for the US and title. And so that sort of shows the level you've got to be at. And so so people can complain about it, but it's like I said, because Cesaro fought Cena about a month or so ago, and everyone was complaining. It's like he doesn't need to beat him; he just needs to prove he can go out there. Because I think everyone knows that John Cena's not the best wrestler, but he's not as bad as everyone. There's so many people out there, they'll never give him credit no matter what he does. And I thought he did a good job in the match. In selling Bray Wyatt, because he's got to sell Bray Wyatt as creepy. I mean, with Bray Wyatt, you don't sell the moves as much as you sell the reaction to Bray Wyatt, and I thought John Cena sold that perfectly well. But yeah, I thought it was a good match. One thing about it is that I say, and I'll give WWE credit for this, whatever there's wrong with them, no one does video packages like them, because the 3 video packages they ran during the night, and this was one of them. It's like even if I'd seen none of the build up to John Cena Bray Wyatt, I would have watched that video package and I'm into this. This is like I mean the same with the one they did one for Daniel Bryan. They did the same with Lesnar. If I watched just the promo and hadn't watched the build up to Lesnar versus Undertaker, I'd have believed Brock Lesnar could have beaten the Undertaker based on the promo, and that was one of them. Was that great with the Eminem song? So yeah, I thought overall, I don't think there was much wrong with it really. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I think they did those big three video packages. All three were just amazing this year. That they showed that Daniel Bryan one again before Raw last night,
Yeah.
and I mean it's just awesome. It's as good as that one. They did that one for Rock versus Austin at WrestleMania 17 that everybody still remembers, to that Limp Bizkit song. That's like the only time I've ever had any reason to listen to a Limp Bizkit song. And
one of my other favourite ones was the one because they don't use them anymore. They always use their own song. They always use band songs. But I remember back in the Attitude Era, there was the one that sounds like the Omen music, and they did it with Triple H versus Cactus Jack at the Royal Rumble, and it's sort of like when he pulls his shirt off and it goes dun 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 dun, and it's just it was such a great video promo. But yeah, but the other thing I think I like about them is they're now doing things that they wouldn't have done before, which is like with Daniel Bryan one, they showed clips of him in Ring of Honor and playing in like dingy little independent shows, which they probably wouldn't have done before. They would have only shown clips of him in WWE because they would have sold that. I don't know if it was a deliberate thing, but I was looking for the song for the Daniel Bryan one, the Monster, and it's by a band called Imagine Dragons, and I just wonder whether they picked that because it's called Dragon, because the band's called Dragon, and he was the American Dragon.
The American Dragon. Yeah, that never occurred to me, but yeah, that's an interesting little coincidence. So let's that's the only big match I guess for Mania we haven't talked about yet. The Triple H Bryan and then the main event. I'm gonna have to go back and watch Triple H versus Bryan again, because I watched it live obviously, but sometimes it's hard to judge when you're watching it live and you're just so excited that it's WrestleMania. It's hard to judge like whether it's really a great match or not. I get the feeling Triple H versus Bryan was probably a little better than I thought it was. But I don't know, Doc. What did you think of Triple H versus Bryan?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, when I'm looking at when I'm thinking of WrestleMania as what I saw, it all kind of meshes together, and that's why I graded it as a really good show. Some of those matches fall faint on me, like the Bryan versus Triple H match. So I myself would have to go back and rewatch that because it's like I know they face each other, but at this point, there's so many better things that you brought to me are overwhelming that moment, and I'm not really fresh on it anymore. But I'm pretty sure it was a really good match. I mean, you put Daniel Bryan over, so it had to be pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and it just goes to show, as much as people like us, I guess, will occasionally bitch about, Triple H and how he holds people back, and he don't, when Triple H puts somebody over, he fucking puts somebody over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Daniel Bryan looked like, both after the Triple H, after that match, and then after the beatdown, and then when he, the whole thing with the stretcher in the main event, he came out of that looking like $1 million. When they really decide to make somebody, they fucking make a guy.
Which I'd like to point out that I predicted the beatdown after.
Yes, you did.
I said that they need to beat him down to make it look like that he really needs to overcome adversity to win this matchup, and sure enough, bam! I am wrestling's fucking Nostradamus, people. Just learn to live with it. If you have questions, I have answers. Come to me. I am the doctor.
And since we haven't mentioned it yet, because we're kind of going back and forth here, you did beat me once again in the predictions contest we had. You're once again the defending champion of predicting the results of major wrestling events.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Although it was closer this month, you only beat me by one.
Well, you're celebrating. I realise you're celebrating for predicting that, but I'm afraid I've got some bad news because I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. If you go, I actually made a prediction. The one prediction I got wrong with the Daniel Bryan sort of saga of matches was I thought they would put them back to back. I didn't think they'd open with it, but I said that afterwards it'll beat Triple H, it'll be clean, and then Triple H will beat the living piss out of Daniel Bryan, leaving him as fuck, and then they'll go on to the other match. So yeah, and I'm currently winning the Total D-Bags, which is my wrestling channel. I'm currently winning our predictions thing at the moment. We have a little thing that we started. So yeah, so Dick and Doc might have to We'll have to.
You could have you could unify the title at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was kind of surprised that they made Triple H versus Bryan the opener too, but I'm glad they did because that then became the story of the whole show. They had that thread connecting everything together, and one of the few backstage things that they did was when they would sort of check up on Daniel Bryan, like, oh, how's he doing? Oh, he can't quite raise his arm, you know.
He's doing the old, oh.
Yeah, exactly. It was, you know, me and I watched it over at Doc's place, as I said, and we would look at each other and be like, gee, I hope that Daniel is able to compete. The suspense is killing me.
The thing is, I do feel sorry for wrestling writers anyway, because they get accused of not doing anything new. But it's like, if you've been watching it as long as we have, like I've been watching it 22 years.
Yeah.
It's what else can you actually do? It's like, you know when a tag team. It's like if I had a quid for every time a promo started with two men having a fight. It's like, these two guys were like brothers. They were a tag team. They were best of friends. It's like, this is how they're going to play it. I mean, I thought it was as soon as they opened with it, I thought, right, Daniel Bryan's obviously going to win, right? Or at least the odds on him actually winning this, or this being the, because you can't have Triple H win and then just expect the crowd to sit there, because they're just going to be sat there waiting to find out whether Daniel Bryan's actually going to be in the main event. So I figured if they're starting with it, and once Undertaker lost, I was like, right, Daniel Bryan's got to be winning, right? There's just no way they're going to have the Undertaker lose and then they're going to knock over Bryan. I thought the Triple H match was good. It was I do love the fact that Triple H is in one match, he loses, and he has the most elaborate fucking entrance of everyone. It's like you imagine that's how he comes out of the bathroom every morning, just sat there in that outfit. he just let the doors open and he emerges in that crowd. That's how he shows up at the board meetings. He just sits there on that chair with the girls sat there, and he's got his mask on. But and Stephanie's great, obviously, because she's annoying as hell, and you just you want her to get and you think, when she's slapping Daniel Bryan, it's like he's not Steve Austin. He's not going to hit her back. Daniel Bryan's not going to hit a woman like that. So he was just standing there laughing at her as she was sort of getting her hand caught in his beard and stuff like that. It was just quite funny. But
I think Stephanie was sexy as hell on WrestleMania night, and damn it,
she had been tied up.
I would slap the shit out of her. Give it to me, Stephanie. Just one night for me, Trips. Come on, one night.
Well, you can't. So this is why whenever someone asks me why was Randy Savage my favourite wrestler, it's like, because he gave Triple H sloppy seconds, and which obviously it never happened. But yeah, I thought they all played it well, and the thing is, even when the thing about Triple H is, even when he loses and that, you think it would be like an embarrassment, but he just come. I do love the fact that JBL said this is Triple H's most embarrassing loss ever. I'm like, what? And even more than the Brooklyn Brawler, who beat him on SmackDown after Jericho interfered. The Brooklyn Brawler beat him on SmackDown for after 6 seconds or something like that. But yeah, so I thought maybe they could play down the whole this is the most embarrassing night of his life thing, because that kind of stumps it down a bit. You could say it was an up, but to say this is the most embarrassing defeat ever for him is
because they want to, obviously Daniel Bryan's going to be the underdog, and you want to play that part up and say, oh, he's fighting from underneath and he beat Triple H, but it's like, yeah, but I mean, he is a former world champion. It's not like he's just some kid off the street who came in and beat Triple H. He's been a main eventer in the company for a year. You call it an upset if you want.
No, all the jokes about his shovel have died down a bit. I can understand why there's the whole thing about Triple H, because I remember I always felt Randy Orton's biggest problem in his career has been Triple H, because you always feel that even now when he wins the title, he has to be second fiddle to Triple H. Mm-hmm. And it's and he always felt I always remember that WrestleMania where Triple H, the main event was Randy Orton versus Triple H, and Randy Orton has been brilliant. He DDT'd he DDT'd Stephanie and he kissed her while he sexually assaulted her essentially whilst Triple H was handcuffed, and he kicked Vince McMahon in the head, and he was fucking, and then Triple H went to his house, and then Triple H wins at Mania, and then Randy Orton wins the title again at the following pay-per-view in a 6-man tag with what were they called? DiBiase and Rhodes versus McMahon,
Legacy,
the two McMahons. Yeah, and it was Legacy versus the two McMahons, and it was whoever got the pinfall would be world champion. And I think, Orton pinned Shane McMahon, and then it was like you always felt like he was just like never get it. Triple H was always there, hanging over him, and like there was always those wrestlers that got the title for a month, and then Triple H wanted it back. Like Randy Orton, when he first had the title, he had it for a month, lost it at the next pay-per-view. I think it was Goldberg had it for a month, lost it at the next pay-per-view, and there was just always that. So I can understand why people have this feeling with Triple H, and he is banging Vince McMahon's daughter.
Yeah.
Nerves there, but if he's in charge.
Love goes two ways, and Stephanie McMahon is also banging Triple H.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not the one with the power now. I mean, you got like Vince McMahon's going to be, he's nearly 70. Triple H must be in his 40s, so we've got a good 30 years left of before Triple H's son can take over, or whoever's taken over. I don't know anymore.
You see, as a wrestler, I think Triple H holds himself into a class that he doesn't deserve to be in. Now, he is a great wrestler. He's a great businessman. I am more proud of what he's done as a businessman, but he does hold himself in a class of wrestler he doesn't belong in. He thinks he's a Ric Flair. He thinks he's a Hulk Hogan. He thinks he's a Shawn Michaels. He thinks he's a Bret Hart. But Triple H, you've been very entertaining, and you've held a lot of championships, but you are really not to that type. You're really not to that level. You're up there, but you're not legendary like they are.
I think it was Jim Cornette said the best quote about Triple H. He said he's the guy who works with the guy who draws money, and it's kind of true in a way, because I can't think of a time I've ever wanted to watch a match with Triple H in because Triple H was in it. It's always because it was Triple H versus someone who I wanted to watch. Like I wanted to see Triple H versus Cactus Jack, but it was Cactus Jack that I felt would make it. I want to see Triple H Jericho, but it's Jericho is the one I want to see. I want to see Triple H Bryan, but Bryan's the one I really want to sort of see in that. So, and that's what I always felt with, and I sort of agree with that with Triple H. It's not. I mean, he's got a great. He's one of those guys. You don't have to be you don't have to be brilliant or a legend or one of the best ever to know how it works, and if he's got a good mind for it all. But yeah, I definitely don't think he would. I would put him as he's never been the face of the company. Is what I'd actually say. There's only ever been people talk about the face of the company now, but there's only ever been 5 in my opinion, or 6. There was Hogan, Austin, Rock, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and John Cena. They're the only people I would ever could say they were the face of the company. Other than that, no one else can really.
I think when I think about it, when you try to figure out, like, because there is a lot of animus against Triple H among internet fans, and you try to figure out, like, where does that come from? Because he's not the only guy to have held people back, or who people think have held people back. He's not the only guy to have won matches that people think the other guy should have won. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, and it's not, I mean, I'm sure Triple H himself has a lot to do with it, but it's not entirely his fault. The company has sort of presented him in this way for years as he's one of those guys, like The Rock, like Austin, like Hogan, like and he never really has been. He's never been accepted as that by the fans. He's never really. I mean, he's a terrific wrestler. I take nothing away from him in the ring. He's had some amazing matches with a wide variety of opponents over a long period of time. He's tremendous. But he's not Steve Austin.
No.
He's not Ric Flair. He's not The Rock. He's not Hulk Hogan. And and he's not Bret Hart. He's certainly not Shawn Michaels. And it sticks in people's craw because look, if he was just sort of allowed to stay in like that, it's not quite a valid comparison because I think he's a little bit on a higher level in this, but it's like Arn Anderson. Everybody loves Arn Anderson, and everybody knows that Arn Anderson, as great as he was a notch below Ric Flair. And it's like you took Arn Anderson, and after Ric Flair retired, you made Arn Anderson the top heel in the company, and all of a sudden everybody's saying, you know, Arn Anderson's as good as Ric Flair ever was. Everybody knows that's not true. We like Arn Anderson a lot. He's great, but we know that he's not at that level.
I mean, the thing is, he's at the front. He's the guy you can blame because he's the guy who's at front. And the thing is, I do kind of like the fact that they do have that essence where you can tell they're looking at the for it, because they do have those little digs where they make those little comments where he actually said in a promo, he said, "I will bury Daniel Bryan." And it was like you can tell that he's seen all the memes with him holding a shovel and stuff like that, and there's all the memes about Triple H's golden shovel and stuff like that. So yeah, they pay attention to stuff like that. I mean, maybe they pay too much attention to it, but I can't really blame it. I said that in the video I did, that video I sent you, Steve, about the internet fans who were suddenly wanted Triple H to win, and they were turning on Daniel Bryan. It's like you're biting, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face now, because you're buying into that's the sort of, and it's almost, there's a brilliant meme I saw, and it was a picture of like some stereotypical internet wrestling fan guy with glasses and spots and that, and he's standing there saying I'm bored of Daniel Bryan, and then the next picture of Vince McMahon going, now he can be champion, and it's almost like maybe there was a strategy there.
Yeah.
Let's all start hating Daniel Bryan, then maybe they'll make him champion.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though. I mean, they clearly Triple H or somebody pays attention to the bitchy wrestling fans, because Triple H's most brilliant moments as a heel these last few months have been in those moments in promos when he has acted like exactly the kind of guy that everybody says he is, you know. And there was even some of that at WrestleMania when they came in to interfere in the main event, and it was either then or it was after he beat up Bryan after their match. But he said something as he was walking away, you know, something like, "There won't be a happy ending," you know, because he knows that we know that he's the guy with the power to decide what happens in real life, and he's playing on that knowledge and on that fear that a lot of wrestling fans have. That's the Vince McMahon strategy, wasn't it? After he did the screw job with Bret Hart, that's really where Mr. McMahon came from, because he just, as Vince McMahon said, he said, well, if everyone hates me and thinks I'm the biggest arsehole on the planet, I'll be the biggest arsehole on the planet, and then that'll make them want to watch more. Because if I fulfill their preconceptions of me, and I actually push it further, then they'll keep watching, and they'll keep, because that's the two reasons you hate wrestling. You watch wrestling because you love it, and you watch it because you hate it. And those are the two reasons you exactly.
You hate it. And some people hate it. Some people seem to just watch it just because they hate it. You know, and they're the most annoying ones. You know.
Yeah. So WrestleMania ends with really the only way that it could possibly have ended in a sane universe, with Bryan holding up both belts and everybody screaming yes and confetti in the ring, which was nice because it felt like it's been a long time since they did that with a new guy at the end of the show, where it wasn't Cena or Rock. It was a new up-and-coming guy that was sort of just made, and it sort of points to the future, points to something new coming. And then we had Raw last night, and the Post-Mania Raw the last 2 or 3 years has always been really, really interesting, mostly because of the crowd.
Things around the same city or in the same city, so it's always going to be around the same type of crowd too, because they're there.
But they're all foreigners, aren't they? I mean, they're all international. They're all international fans. I mean, the Raws that always come whenever I go to every year. I go to Raw. I'm going to Raw on May 19th in London, and they're always like, you know, because like we see it once a year. In America, like they visit a town, it's like they've been there. They've been there 3 times a year already in that city. So, you know, the fans that go there are the same ones, so they're all a bit used to it. So the Raw afterwards, you can see on the flags in the crowd, they're all people. They're from Europe, they're from Australia, they're from all over the world. So,
yeah, that's what I was thinking. You know, I was watching. I tend to watch the crowd a lot because I'm in the business, so we tend to pay attention to the fans. And one of the first things I noticed was like, oh my God, who invited the Jew?
Is that your cat?
Big Jewish flag up in the crowd. I'm like, come on.
Is the Rudy Jew?
Like Goldberg does not wrestle here. Goldberg does not wrestle here at all. So go away.
That's Doc's. That's Doc's.
Was Goldberg a Jew?
Goldberg?
Was it Goldbergstein?
Yeah.
You see, of all the racist gimmicks they've done in wrestling, they've never done a Jew, have they? They've never had a guy just come out with the big dread, with the big curls in his hair and the hat, and go.
No. Over here we have a man called Joseph Schwartz. He is very Jewish. He wears his little top hat, and he wears the colors, and he has a long beard, but he does play up the Jewish role. He is fucking phenomenal. He is great.
I love that you interrupted me. I love you interrupted me going, no, we've got a racist stereotype of a Jew. We've got one. Come watch it.
We got a Jewish wrestler over here. Yeah, he plays it up, man. It is awesome. I'm not a big fan of the Jewish people, but that gimmick is great.
This is America. You think we don't have racist Jewish gimmicks?
Colt Cabana's Jewish. You can't have a go.
I love Colt. I'm not saying I hate all Jews. I'm saying the great. There are ones that I really like.
Listen, we started off talking about something. Now we're into just full-blown anti-Semitism.
How many sentences have ever been said that didn't get the person in trouble that began with, I don't hate all Jews?
Yeah, I don't hate all Jews.
Who's ever said that? What bad person has ever said that?
What bad person has ever... I'm not saying they're all bad. That's
I don't hate all people. You have to prove to me that you are a good person, and that's good enough for me.
We talked about Triple H's shovel. You've got one now, and you're just digging yourself.
Oh, I'll do that. You give me a chance.
We were talking the main event of WrestleMania. We were talking.
I'm so sorry.
But no. So anyway, let me try to haul this back to pro wrestling. Now that we've discussed racist, anti-Semitic gimmicks.
Now we've got the Holocaust denial out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the main event.
My warped sense of humor tends to get me in trouble sometimes, so please forgive me.
Oh, I think Steve will tell you I know all about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Dick knows a little something about that. It's cool. But yeah, so the crowd at a wrestling show, even when you're watching it on TV, can really make a difference with how well you enjoy a show. And with the Raw, the Post-Mania Raw, it definitely does that every year. So Doc, we talked a little bit before we went on the air here about what I know. I really thought Raw was awesome. What did you think of Raw last night?
Raw was a transitional Raw. It was probably one of the best Raws I've seen in a long, long time, that I was excited about, and I tried my damnedest to stay up because I had to get up so early. But it was just like the WWE shifted freaking gears and was giving us things that was completely unexpected. And I think if they can commit to what they're showing us on Raw last night, that I'm going to be a very, very happy man in our wrestling future, because we've seen a lot of surprises, a lot of things we didn't expect. I certainly didn't expect to see, and a great happy finish, which is what I always like. I love a happy finish, and by far, yeah, great Raw. We'll get into match by match if you want to. That's why I didn't really break it down.
Yeah, we'll get into some more specifics. What did you think of the post WrestleMania Raw there, Dick?
Yeah, I can see next week there being, or I can see in the near future there's going to be a Batista, Orton, Triple H, and Kane versus The Shield and Daniel Bryan. I can see that happening because Daniel Bryan's fought The Shield so much over the last 8 months, or like when he was in Team Hell No and all that. All he did was fight The Shield every week with another person. So I can see them now sort of teaming up and that, and they're going with. And it's like there's a definite sort of old guard versus new guard feel about it. My favourite chant of the night, though, for the crowd, there was a guy who came out to sweep up the bits of the Andre the Giant memorial trophy, and the crowd was saying, "Thank you, broom guy." Thank you, broom guy. And they're going, sweep, 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 and that is like, those are the moments. Those are the ones. There was no real sort of dead match like last year where you had like Orton versus Sheamus, which is like having Flu and Me at the same time watching those, and the crowd were just like, that's when the crowd went mental and they were just like chanting for Justin Roberts and Michael Cole and anything and everything that wasn't going on, that wasn't Sheamus or Randy Orton at the time. But yeah, the crowds are always good in that. And again, they did. I mean, they had the title change with Paige, that new guy. It was a good night for the British now, because you had Bad News Barrett finally made his thing, and and I do love the fact that Bad News Barrett. I hated the Bad News Barrett thing when he first started, but now it's like he's really made something like good out of that, because now everyone gets excited about it. And then because he came out of the Hall of Fame and did the Bad News Barrett thing, and you had Paige winning the Divas title and stuff like that, and we got TNA World Champion in Magnus, and then you got the Women's Champion. So yeah, so it was but yeah, again, there was nothing really you could say. I thought maybe it would have been maybe the ending. They could have actually tried to have a somewhat match for a couple of minutes. Maybe started having it all Triple H, Bryan, and then brought the other guys into it to sort of beat them up and stuff like that, and then brought the Shield. Other than that, there's very little you can really complain.
Yeah, you're right. That the main event felt a little bit like an episode of Nitro in the fact that they never actually even properly started a match. But yeah, it was. I mean, Bad News Barrett actually had a match. That's I was in the same boat with that. When he first started doing that Bad News gimmick on TV, I was like, what are they doing? There's no way this is ever. And he made that work. He really made something special.
It was actually funny when they started it, because it was the thing that started on the JBL and Cole show.
Yeah.
And it was quite funny when they started doing it on there. But when they put him on TV, they just were giving him such naff material. And I guess when they're on the internet, they're sort of like, they can be a little bit more, few more chances with it. But yeah, but he's definitely made it work now. I think people are just desperate to see Wade Barrett try and actually, because he is good, but he's just like, they've tried so many things with him. He's had so many gimmicks. He's had more gimmicks than fucking Ed Leslie, in the last few months.
I've recently worked with Ed Leslie.
Have you? Hogan's bitch.
Yeah.
This was like,
I get to cut hair with him.
He's a very nice man, but he is Hogan's bitch. He is.
Yeah. The thing that made the Bad News Barrett gimmick not work at first for me was just like you said, Dick. They were giving him such lame material. The bad news was basically always that, well, you're all a bunch of losers. Mm-hmm. Like you just had different ways.
And it's the fact they gave him that little podium that felt a little bit raw, and it's like, why is Wade Barrett just standing on a podium there? I think it would have been better, but when they sort of had him, when they went to the ridiculous length, like they were putting him on like a 20-foot high stanchion on a podium.
Yeah, that podium.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was when it started working. Because like when you have the little podium there and he's just there talking, it just seemed a little bit lame. But when they went to ridiculous lengths to get him on a podium where he's like massively in the air and he's like interrupting every 5 minutes, and then it started to work, and then you have him come out, and then people are like, I think it's also, there is a thing about repetition, about like, even if something's not that, it's like how many songs are there out there that you don't really like, but if you hear it 20 or 30 times in a row over a short period of time, you will eventually end up going, it's all right, I got used to it, because you do actually sort of you grow a sort of I think it's like Stockholm syndrome or something, but it's
let's while we're on the subject of Raw, let's talk about Paul Heyman's. Paul Heyman had two memorable moments last night. The first was that incredibly scathing heel promo he cut with Brock, where he basically he buried everybody other than Brock Lesnar. It was one of the most incredible heel promos I've seen in a long time. And then later on in the show, he comes out and aligns himself with Cesaro, and it's almost as though he's. And I talked to Doc, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, it's like it's very postmodern. It's like the fans just cheer for whatever they like and they boo whatever they don't like, and they don't care who's a face or a heel so much. At least that crowd last night did. And with Heyman, it's like he's the biggest heel in the building, other than Brock himself. After that promo, and then he comes out, and as soon as Cesaro says, "I'm a Paul Heyman guy," and Paul comes out, instant babyface. They love him again. It's so odd to see that. Doc, what did you think of how Paul Heyman came across in those segments?
You're exactly right. It is a time where the shades of gray are going crazy in the WWE because Heyman comes out with Brock and they boo the shit out of him. But as soon as Cesaro announces it, they pop. When Heyman comes out, they pop. You know, when he goes into his match with Swagger, they pop. It's like they had nothing but good things to say about this, which means that they are solid behind. You know why? Because they don't really care about Brock, but they do love Heyman. They do love Cesaro. So that is a golden combination right there. I think it was a really smart move.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, great crowd response there. So I think you hit one out of the park by joining those two.
I liked how after the Andre trophy was broken, because of course that's what happens to trophies in wrestling. They get broken.
I was hoping it was going to be Bad News Brown, or no, Bret Hart came out there and broke that trophy.
Yeah, broke Bad News'. It would have been really something if it was Bad News Brown that came out and broke the trophy last night. But yeah, and then I liked how Heyman hugged the Andre part, like he always used.
He was always cradling it like a baby. He was like a sort of like a child.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny because like a couple of months ago or last year at some point, Vince McMahon came out and there was a thing saying Vince McMahon comes out and says there's no heels and faces anymore in wrestling. Or he's told the creative team, it's like no heels or faces anymore. And everyone was like, oh, this is ridiculous. Vince McMahon's out of touch. I'm like, he's exactly right. There are no heels or faces. Look at last night. It's like, you know, look at John Cena. You know, he's a face, but he's a face who everyone boos. I mean, he's also last night. You got the Wyatts. They're all heels. Everyone was cheering them. Everyone was cheering Bad News Barrett. Everyone was booing Rey Mysterio. Everyone was, you know, they were, you know, and I think again, it's like with CM Punk. It's like it's not about whether someone's a heel or face. It's like, who do you like more out of the two? You're going to boo them. It's like CM Punk. Everyone cheered him when he's like when he's a heel going up against John Cena, but when he's a heel going up against The Undertaker, everyone boos him, even though they sort of like, even though they all love CM Punk really, you know, and then CM Punk goes away and he's still got Paul. And again, Doc said it right. It's like people love Paul Heyman, but they don't like The Undertaker's streak being beaten by Brock Lesnar and that sort of stick, so they're going to sit there and boo that. So it's almost like you the heel and the face is based on each individual scenario. It's not based on the actual person anymore. It's based on situation. Yeah, like there'll be a situation, no doubt. Like if you were to have Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro now for the world title, there would probably be a conflict of crowd. There'd be people booing Daniel Bryan. There'd be people booing Cesaro, and it wouldn't be because they don't like either of them or they're heels, but they prefer the other one.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the sort of thing that would happen, and it's interesting. I was trying to think about it, just sort of trying to judge it by the old sort of babyface versus heel separation, and I thought, well, maybe they want to try and keep Cesaro a heel. I think that train has left the station. I think he's whether he acts like a heel or not, he's a babyface to the fans. But maybe they had Paul Heyman come out and cut this, you know, epic heel promo, putting down everybody other than Brock Lesnar and putting down the people and burying the Undertaker even more to get him over as just this monster evil heel, hoping maybe when he comes out with Cesaro that it'll kind of rub off on Cesaro a little. But that certainly didn't happen, because like you said, Dick, I mean the heels were the baby faces last night, really, except for Daniel Bryan. I mean, Bray Wyatt was the second most over baby face on the show. I mean, they were cheering for Bray like he was fucking Hulk Hogan in 1986.
Got the whole world in his
I'm sorry, but
hands.
whenever I hear that song, all I can think about is Steve Buscemi in Con Air playing Garland Green when the plane's going down, and he's got the whole world in his hands. Is that going to be? That's the weird thing about Bray Wyatt. Yeah, he hasn't got any merchandise, and I wonder whether they're going to go because I did see here. I like the fact that even Bray Wyatt's this fucking like he lives out in this lake. He's got an outfit. Isn't he? I've got right. I would go, but it's in the garage. My Bray Wyatt hat and shirt. But it's like you wonder whether they're going to Bray Wyatt's this hick who lives out in the lakes, and he's got this. But like even he's got a nice coat when it comes out of WrestleMania. Like he's got this new jacket on. And it's like even Bray Wyatt gets dressed. Even the hillbillies are getting dressed up for WrestleMania. Oh, here we are. All right, fair enough then.
This is my Bray Wyatt shirt. So don't tell me they don't have any merchandise.
I know. Is that an official one? Is that actually from the? Is that?
Let me check the tag. My wife is a manager at Hot Topic, so they actually do get WWE shirts in there. So they get a whole bunch of different ones. They had the Wrestlemania shirts in there, and but I'm not actually sure. I do not see the official WWF tag.
Well, there you go. Then it's not actual. It's not official. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not real to me.
This works for me. Does this not work for you, ladies and gentlemen? It's got Bray Wyatt and Scott Rowan.
I want to see Bray Wyatt hats on sale, and I want to see like yeah. I want to see lanterns. I want to see lanterns on sale.
What do I gotta do? What do I gotta do?
I think aren't they selling those sheep masks? I thought they were selling those sheep masks.
I think the sheep masks. Yeah, they got them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want the full overalls. I want the full overalls. So full Luke Harper.
Do not
put like dirty vest.
Do not make me go get my Hawaiian shirt. You just became friends with me on Facebook, Dick, so just check my profile picture.
I was about to say, I'm really sad. I'm going to see Raw in May. I'm 34 years old. I've never dressed up for one wrestling event, and I'm finally dressing up. And do you know what I found out? My 8-year-old cousin is going to the same wrestling show as me in his John Cena shirt. And I'm going to be there. I've got the full Bray Wyatt outfit. I've got the white trousers, the Hawaiian shirt, the hat. I've even got a lantern. The one thing, if there's one thing that annoys me about Bray Wyatt's gimmick, I really wish he would. It's so obviously an electric lantern when he does the blowing out at the end. When he goes, he's so obviously turning it off at the bottom. That's the one thing that gets on my nerves. I wish they would just give him a real lantern, but they probably can't because it's probably health and safety or something. They've got explosions going off on the stage, so I don't see why that would.
The pyro might set off the lantern. The thing to bother me, the only quibble I have with that, because I don't really care if he's pretending to blow out a lantern or not. I mean, it is kind of silly if you think about it. Like he's
irrelevant. It just annoys me.
Yeah, he's like a swamp hillbilly cult leader, but he's playing along with blowing out the lantern. I just don't like. It's purely a presentation thing, but I just don't like the fact that he lights the lantern, blows it out, and then walks out with it. Again.
Can I just say also, leader, he's not very good, is he? Because he's basically convinced two dumb hillbillies, the only two people in his entire cult. Because I remember when they're the only people he managed to. He didn't even convince Daniel Bryan. He got Daniel Bryan for a week.
Yeah.
He can't get any. He can't seem to convince anyone else. But I thought it was funny because when they did his first promo, if you remember the first promo, he was standing there and there was like loads of people there, sort of, and it's like, and I always thought there was going to end up being more people there, so I was always surprised when it was just the two that they went for. They should really. They're probably going to end up being more. They're probably going to like get some people to. You can see that being something that grows a little bit.
Yeah. You know who is going to have a shitload of people when they come to Raw? Adam Rose.
Adam Rose, yeah.
Adam Rose promos on Raw. They are absolutely shifting into this new generation gear. Because
I thought that is the best. I watched that Adam Rose promo. I thought this is the best. I'm getting his face tattooed on my balls. This is so fucking so stupid. You know what's funny? It's just the fact that he comes out and it's like he's obviously English, but he sounds like an American doing a bad English. He sounds like someone doing an impression of Cliff Richard. So he kind of goes, "Hi there, I'm Adam Rhodes. I'm on my party bus. I party all the time in here. Come on, guys, let's go." And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
And then you got Bo Dallas was another one who had a promo. So you got those two as well.
Yeah, and I love both guys. So I hope that they. I'm a big Bo Dallas fan. I think he's like our generation's honky tonk man. With that completely.
Are you the only Bo Dallas fan out there? Then
I love Bo, man. I think he is that whole clueless, like, you know, and the way he turns chants around, like, and when the NXT crowd is chanting "No more Bo," and he says, "See, they want to know more about me."
Yeah.
I mean, I just love that. That's so clever. But yeah, the Adam Rose thing, the entrance alone is going to get him over. I mean, even if he. You know, even if his first 10 matches are fucking horrible, just the party people coming down to the ring with him and singing along to the song, I mean, that's going to get him over crazy.
Is it going to be a bit like? Is it going to be a little bit Fandango-ish, where like, because like with Fandango when he came down, it literally they should have said, now being accompanied to the ring by Fandango is Fandango's entry music, because that was basically. That's all we remember. Is like we had Fandangoing that lasted a month. It came back briefly last night. Yeah. Like, and that was it. There was nothing else really.
Yeah, and speaking of bringing in the NXT guys, the sort of the new blood from developmental. What did you guys think? We'll start with you, Doc. Of Paige winning the Divas title last night. Okay.
Okay. This is gone.
Damn,
this is getting uncomfortable.
I do love my Divas. And having Paige come down there out of nowhere, and she is currently the NXT Women's Champion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now she's holding both belts. And to me, I'm wondering.
She'll probably relinquish that the next show. You imagine they'll probably make her give that up or something like that.
You would think so.
They're obviously gonna.
Well, it went over, and she. As far as I know, she was a heel in NXT, and she got over in the WWE, and she beat the heel, so she would be a babyface. So, is she going to be babyface in the WWE while still in the NXT's heel? But I was excited to see her come over because, yes, she looked really good. It was a good little makeover she had there, and her wrestling was on par. And I definitely welcome any female wrestler that wants to come to the WWE that actually knows how to wrestle. So it was good to see her, and I'm glad that she beat AJ. It was unexpected. One night after WrestleMania, I didn't see that one coming.
You do kind of hope it doesn't kind of kill her a bit, because I mean she's literally, I mean, she's 21 years old. I mean that's incredibly young to already be given, and there's only one woman's title. So you do kind of hope it doesn't. And you have this before. Look at all the guys who've been given a belt really, really quickly. Look at like Sheamus was given the belt really, really like 6 weeks later. Sheamus was given the belt, and then you look at all the guys who were given. Drew McIntyre given the IC title almost right away, and then you've got all these guys who were just given a belt almost as it's almost like the belts are not something you work for now. It's like that's the launching pad for some people, and sometimes it kind of kills them, because now it's like, what have you got to with Daniel Bryan? He's been there. It's like he's fought all that time to get that thing. With Austin, it was like he's fought all this time to get the belt. It's like she's already won the belt. It's like, now what does Paige do now at 21 years old? Now she's already won the title. Why do we care? Why do we care anymore? Or what, about it?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a certain level of respect more for Paige, because she has come through the developmental. She has that certain amount of wrestling ability. She is very sexy, and that sets her apart from the rest of the cream of the crop of the WWE, because you don't have a lot in there, and you do have some that don't have anything. But
Sheamus was as well. Remember, he was in developmental, and he was really, and people were talking about him when he came. He was in ECW, which was essentially like the third, and he'd been in there for a bit, and he was destroying everyone. And when he beat Cena, everyone was really excited, but then they realised he was boring, and he couldn't. There was nothing to him really, and so he's kind of just now he's in that position just because that's where he's always been. But they need it. With Sheamus, he's an example of someone who's just they need to stop trying to make him likable, because he just really, it's not that he's unlikable. He's just he's not likable enough.
He's a better heel. I would give you that. I think he would do better as a heel because you can't put. He's gone as far as you can push him as a babyface.
Yeah, and the times that Sheamus has really gotten over has been as a heel. I mean, before he turned babyface this last time, what sort of built him back up was that nice long heel run he had leading up to that, the year that he won the Royal Rumble 2 years ago. That he had a long heel run leading up to that before he turned and won the Rumble.
I always felt that when CM Punk talked about like how the guys with the muscles are pushed over people, I always felt that Sheamus was who he was talking about, because everyone knows that Sheamus is Triple H's mate. And the fact that he comes in, he gets the title after 6 weeks. He's had the title. He's had like 3 world titles, and like things like when they did the Daniel Bryan, they beat Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds at WrestleMania, and that kind of like everyone was a bit. I think it's things like that people feel. And Sin Cara's another one who's just like like everyone these are Triple H's pet projects, and people feel that they get sort of put over too much for what they are. Yeah.
Well, the thing about Sheamus, I don't even necessarily have anything against Sheamus. I like some of the things that he does, but it's gotten so crowded at the top, especially after WrestleMania and Raw, where you have the perception of not just Orton and Bryan and Batista and Triple H and Cena, but now you've also got Bray Wyatt, you've got Cesaro coming up. I mean, there's only so many spots.
Well, they need to push the IC title again, don't they? I mean, you think now they've got rid of the World Heavyweight title, they need to put the IC title back. I mean, if they want to make it meaningful, I honestly think that Money in the Bank, there should be a Money in the Bank match for the IC title, and it should just be without any big names in it. It should just be younger guys doing maybe just a smaller ladder match for a Money in the Bank for the IC title, and that will give it a bit more meaning, because that's the only thing they've got. That's the only other title they've got. I mean, you've got Dean Ambrose, who's got, I can't even remember, the only chance he's got of losing that belt is if he leaves it on the bus one night, right? Because he never defends it. It's like if I'd started watching wrestling after he'd won that, I would have sat there thinking, is that actually a belt, or did he actually is that his gimmick? Did he buy it and that's his belt that he? Because he never defends it against. He's never defended it. I can't remember the last time he defended it. So
no, neither can I.
What's the point?
I think creative might have forgotten that he has it.
Well, I wish they would consolidate both belts. They've already done it to the world. They've done it to the tag team. They've done it to the women's. They need to get rid of those. And as much as I love the Intercontinental title and its lineage, and as much as I love that original Intercontinental title the way it came, I've always liked the name of the United States Championship, because you have the world's title. That represents the world. This United States Championship represents the United States. When I hear the words Intercontinental, it makes me wonder, where the hell are you defending this Intercontinental Championship?
Well, it was even weirder than that, because they used to call it the Intercontinental World Heavyweight Championship or something like that, which that sounds better than just World Heavyweight Championship. But it's amazing to think. It's amazing to think when they had the brand split that they had 2 tag team titles, and they had 2 women's titles, and then they had a hardcore title and a US title and an IC title and a World Heavyweight title. I mean, they need to get rid of them, But again, maybe this is one of those things. Like, maybe you don't if you don't need a title, maybe but it's like it should be something they should do something with. They should at least, because I remember. I mean, I went to SummerSlam '92 at Wembley Stadium when I was like fucking 12 years old, and that's the only time you've ever seen the Intercontinental title, ever. I mean, I remember when it used to actually mean something. You used to get excited when it changed hands, and it used to be a belt that was like, right, the guy who lost. Now it's almost like the guy who it's the Money in the Bank thing now, isn't it? It's like the guy who wins that is going to be the guy who's going to go. That's almost like that's the next title down, is the Money in the Bank. That's the second title, because that seems to mean more.
Yeah, it would be nice to see them rehabilitate the Intercontinental title. I mean, me and Doc were talking on last week's show about this whole the whole attitude that a lot of not a lot, I guess. I think a lot of wrestling fans would like to see the titles mean something too, but there's like the Vince Russo justification of, well, the titles don't mean anything, they're just props. Who cares about the titles? And if that's the way you feel about it, then why even have titles? Just don't even have titles. If they're just props and they're not supposed to be important, then why just don't even have them on the show? If you have them, I mean, look, these are guys. They're pretending to compete in a pretend sport. So they should pretend to care about the titles they're pretending to fight.
I mean, technically, everything's a prop at that point. I mean, like the ring is a prop, and I mean, they're out. They're not. They're wearing costumes. I mean, this is silly man-child stuff. I mean, none of it should. None of it has to mean anything. I mean, obviously, a lot of people take it far too.
Yeah, it's like if you make a Batman movie where Bane's going to destroy the city, and Batman says, "Well, who cares? It's just a movie anyway."
It's like Spider-Man turning up in his pajamas, and they say, like, "I don't need my costume. It's just a costume. It's just
a movie.
I'm not really. It's like John McClane. It's not a real gun. It's like it doesn't hurt. It's like it's just bang bang. It's like it's not real." Or like the Skywalker with the lightsabers going. It's like we can't see anything, right? There's no. We know
Hey guys, pay no attention to the guys who actually makes a living out of this freaking business over here. Why you sit there and play it up like that? So it's like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but Jesus Christ.
No, we get it. It's just like Steve made this point in his 5 stupid things thing. He said about like the thing that them telling us that it's fake. Like we know it's fake. We know it's fake because as wrestling fans know, it's like being a wrestling fan is like being a smoker. Like the first thing anyone will have to tell you when you're a smoker is you know that bad for you, right? You know that they'll kill you. It's like, yes, I do know. The packet tells me it's gonna kill me. It's got it written there. This will kill you. You won't be able to get erections anymore if you continue using this product. I know this, and non-wrestling fans know that all non-wrestling fans will go, it's fake. I'm like, I know it's freaking fake. Of course it's, but I'm not this moron. I can tell this is not real in that sense. So it's like why shove that down our throats as much, But So carry on, you.
Well, we're sort of, I mean, in theory, this is a 1-hour show. That hasn't happened for like a month. But let's start to wind down here. But before we get to the end, we always do a legend of the week because it's always awesome to talk about the old school guys and some of the wrestlers that we may have enjoyed when we were kids, when we first became fans. And Doc, you have a really cool pick. A very nostalgic pick for our legends of the week this week. So talk a little bit about who you've chosen.
Well, for this week, out of the Magic Doctor hat, I chose none other than the tag team known as the Sheepherders. You may know them better as the Kiwi Sheepherders or possibly even the Bushwhackers. You have Luke Williams and Butch Miller. They started both as the Kiwi Sheepherders in the NWA of the New Zealand area and what was called later as the All-Star Pro Wrestling. And that was around 1964. They achieved great regional success there, and the duo was brought to America in 1965 by fellow New Zealander Steve Rickard, who was also known as the booker for NWA Hawaii. My thing about the Bushwhackers here is that I had no clue when I first saw the word the Sheepherders. I did a term paper for my senior year of high school, and while researching the history of wrestling, I came across some great names, such as Frank Gotch, and I also came across some pictures of the Sheepherders. And it was just a huge bloody mess of guys wrestling in the ring. And I had no clue who they were at that time until I started reading the articles, and I got their names as, Butch Miller and Luke Williams, and when I would see them every week on WWE TV, I knew them as this comedic group of the Bushwhackers. And it took me some time to tie the two together, that these two actually were the same wrestlers. And I was kind of amazed by that, to know that their rich history of violent and Bloody Massacre Wrestling actually existed beyond what I actually was accustomed to when I came to the WWE. Well, when they came to the WWE, because all they were really known as in the WWE was a comedy troupe, and they had some great times over there with. They did a lot of vignettes for the Coliseum videos, and they did a little like things with Lord Alfred Hayes and Mean Gene Okerlund. They never really rose to championship material over there, but they were utilized a lot to introduce new teams. They did win a lot of belts in the NWA when they traveled around, and they do work. They did work mostly after their post career in the independent scene. I got my opportunity to work with the Bushwhackers when I first started in the business about 17 years ago. Both of them came to the Clear Spring, Maryland area, and we wrestled a show. Now, from what I knew all the time when I was watching the Bushwhackers on TV, where they were these crazy, they'll lick the shit out of you people kind of guys that throw their arms in your hands like, oh, okay. You know, that's kind of the personality I was accustomed to. But you know, when you get that opportunity to meet someone in the locker room, it can completely change your opinion on a person. These two actually sat by their lockers, sitting in basically the traditional wrestling gear, which was jogging pants, fanny pack. They had a little sweater on, and they both were wearing reading glasses, wearing books, before they actually got into their mood to go out there and start looking and doing what they do, that comedy troupe that everybody knew. So and I have pictures. I should have got my pictures out so I could at least hold them up to the camera. But I do have pictures with the Bushwhackers when I first started out, very young and just a mustache kind of guy. But no, I wanted to honor the Bushwhackers on the show this week because they were someone that I loved watching. They were entertaining. It was someone that not only I liked, but the family liked because of the fact they entertained. My mom loved the Bushwhackers. So I wanted to bring them out and give them proper notice this week on the show that my hat's off to legendary tag team wrestlers, the Bushwhackers, sheep herders.
Do you remember when the tag team division in the WWE, WWF was so strong that they had like 2 or 3 teams like the Bushwhackers just hanging around just to put people over?
They were practically jobbers, weren't they? I mean, in WWE. How many kids do you think they gave hepatitis to? Where the licking, you couldn't do that anymore, could you? You couldn't. They wouldn't allow that. You wouldn't allow you licking children.
There were I think Hacksaw Jim Duggan had a similar career path where his like earlier NWA days were a lot more physical and sort of what we would now call like hardcore, and then he got to the WWF and he was the guy with the 2x4, and the same thing with the Bushwhackers, where they had these long careers all over the world where they were just these vicious, bloody brawlers, and then they get to the WWF and they're these cartoon characters.
There's that video of Roddy Piper doing a promo to the sheep herders where he gets the glass bottle and he smashes it. He does that thing where he used to smash a glass bottle in his face and he slices his entire. He obviously did this loads of times and used to do it right, but he completely buggered this one up. And his face is just absolutely pouring with blood. But he's Roddy Piper doing it because he's a nutter, quite frankly. So he carried on with that.
Yeah, that show you mentioned was at my high school. I was probably at that show, even though we would not actually know each other for years after that. But I went to a couple of. The story carries. It's a beautiful story, isn't it?
I'd have to look up who I wrestled there. I was probably in a tag team as Weird Science or just running around as Hollywood Doc Gregory. So it's hard to know. I've been in the business for almost 20 years now, so. Yeah, those days are long gone and faded memories because you only remember stuff that were epic in your time, and my wrestling career wasn't that epic. Now I can remember a lot of stuff as a referee, but wrestling, not so much.
So that's the job I'd like, being a referee. That would just be I'd do that just.
Oh man, I mean, I came back into the business about 6 years ago, and I said I only want to be a referee, and it has paid off much better than ever being a wrestler. And you have the best seat in the house.
Yeah, it would just be, you can't imagine that though, the guy crying at the end going, this is the greatest moment of my life, all I've wanted to do was be the referee who runs in and does the main event,
I'll tell you what though, Doc as the referee sometimes works harder than some of the wrestlers in the matches he's reffing. He fucking works as a ref in that ring. Let's wrap this up here, but before we go, has anybody checked on the it's still real to me, damn it guy? Is he okay after Undertaker lost? Because I fear for his health. I don't know if he should. I don't know where he is.
Can I say, if I had to think that speaking of Little Legend of the Week, I just want to say it's really funny to me that the Ultimate Warrior has been made Goodwill Ambassador for the WWE. I want to just say two quotes here. He once went to a high school to do a talk, right? What high school this was, I don't know. But he said he referred to his face to a 12-year-old Middle Eastern kid as a raghead, right? He also once.
Yes.
He also once, on the subject of homosexuality, he once said, and I quote, "Queering don't make the world go round." Yeah. Now, which is, in all fairness, is a factually accurate statement. It's got the queer game nothing to do with the actual spinning of the earth, right? But no one's made that argument, right? But this is a guy who's like, they're not Hulk Hogan or Steve Austin or even Mick Foley. No, it's like, I do think everyone should say, I just want to say this as well. Jake Roberts did what has to be the best Hall of Fame speech you're ever going to hear. I think because you sat there after 15 minutes thinking, man, this is a real buzzkill, right? This is a real bummer because he's basically wrestling destroyed my life. I abused my kids, my wives. I cheated on all my wives, but I do it again. And then he gets his own son out and he goes, he's going to be a wrestler too. He's like, oh, brilliant.
He's going to go through the same thing I did.
Yeah, you like, for a guy who's got cancer in his knee, his throat isn't enough paying the fucking toll for it. But you know, it was I was almost tearing up watching it because I've always loved Jake Roberts' story, like just personal life story. It's so unbelievable. You don't believe it's real. It's like when you hear about it, it's like you actually don't believe. You're like, this is not. I actually based there was a little film, Steve, you probably saw it. It was that short film I wrote called Diary that was on my old channel. It was like a 45-minute film. The main character that I played, his in the full-length version, his life is he's actually based on Jake Roberts. And when I used to when I used to tell people like the backstory, which was based loosely on what Jake Roberts, people used to laugh because they thought it was ridiculous, and it was like, so that's not believable in the slightest. I'm like, no, it's totally. This is someone else's life, and it's not.
Yeah. Jake going into the Hall of Fame, and Jake just getting clean and seeming to have actually finally sort of emerged from that long period of where he was, every time you heard that a wrestler died, you're like, oh shit, was it Jake?
He's been in my death pool for 5 years, and I stopped picking him because he was just like, it was like, oh, for fuck's sake, he's never gonna go.
He's never gonna fucking die. It's such a great story because I mean he was and still is. He's one of my favorite wrestlers ever. He's just one of the most. He cut probably what I still think is the best heel promo I've ever seen anybody cut. The one he cut on Macho Man after he beat him up on This Tuesday in Texas.
I know which one this is. Yeah, he's written about how much he loved hitting Elizabeth. And he wanted to do it again.
I could cultivate her into the kind of woman even I would want. I mean,
also, I can say that for the best line of the Hall of Fame ceremony, the best line goes to Kevin Nash, where he goes, "And the Bible says," and you can accept that religious nonsense from anyone other than Kevin Nash, because it's like, I don't think so, mate.
Yeah, Kevin Nash is such a dick.
Fuck you, Shawn Michaels.
There is something likable about him in interviews. He seemed like I mean, he fully admits to the fact that he's got no talent, and the fact that he only got where he was because he happened to be 7 foot tall in an era where steroids were being prohibited everywhere. And so, but there is something quite likable. But yeah, he is a bit of a He probably is a bit of a knob when you get to know him.
Yeah, he seems like
he definitely is a bit of a knob when you get to know him. See,
Doc
you're
knows,
correct
yeah.
in that. He's a bit of a jackass.
Yeah, Doc has told me a couple of times in person. Nash comes off as a complete dick, but I've always liked him. Not so much as a wrestler, but as an interview and as a personality. And those shoot interviews that he does with like kayfabe commentaries are always entertaining.
Yeah.
But that Jake's speech was awesome.
Carlos Colon, I thought, did a great job.
Carlos Colon was good. Yeah,
was happy through the whole thing. Showed nothing but appreciation. Shared rich history of not just his career but what he's done in Puerto Rico. That was awesome, and I love that that Carlito kind of broke a little kayfabe there and made fun of his career there in WWE for a minute.
They also did the best kind of. They also did the best sort of hook thing with Mr. T. They just let's have play Kane's music and have the pyro go and have Kane walk out and stand next to Mr. T.
Kane walks out.
The one question you don't want to ask Mr. T is who your daddy, because he definitely doesn't seem to fucking know.
He does love his mother though.
Yes, he does.
He does. Yeah, fair play to him. Fair play to him. No, but yeah. We all do now. I feel like I don't even know. I got to the end of that speech and I was like, I can't remember my life before this speech started. Now I just feel like all I know is Mr. T's mother and that's it. I was born and I watched this speech. Yeah.
I just know Mr. T had an amazing mother.
Yeah. With that, I'd like to dedicate this episode of Wrestling and Wrestling to Mr. T's mother.
Yes. Absolutely. She clearly deserves.
There was a video that did a count. I think he said mother or some variation 74 times. There was a video that did a mama-meter.
Yeah. So and the only thing I can remember about Ultimate Warrior's speech is just how long it was. I mean, I know there were, like Mr. T went long, Lita went long, but I mean, Warrior's speech just went on and on and on. And there were a few times in it, and this is really the only speech of the night that I felt this way about it, where it seemed like Warrior would talk about things that only he gave a shit about.
Yeah.
But he would talk about it as if we were all as pissed off about that DVD as he was.
Yeah, but what I hate about it is that's what I think, because I always feel that from what I feel about it is that the redoing this rehashing of Warrior's career and legacy is the actual con job. It's not the first DVD. The first DVD I think was probably more. There's probably bits in there that are a little bit maybe they've stretched the truth, or there's people who've embellished a little bit. But I reckon I can believe that that's closer to the real man than any sort of fanciful fucking rose tinted spectacles version of it that they're going to pimp out to you now.
Yeah. Well, the thing that struck me was during his speech, there was one point where he said, the thing that really hurt me was when everybody said that I wasn't a good guy, and I am a good guy. And in that same speech where he's saying he was a good guy, like he started the speech by taking the piss out of DDP and Jake and Scott Hall. And it's like I understand.
Yeah.
You know,
as a guy who's dealt with RAs before, there's that very nice guy.
He's a real nice guy. Well, and like you mentioned earlier, Dick, the things he's done outside of wrestling, like that speech to the college where he said queering doesn't make the world go round. I mean, and if you ever seen any of his stuff on his own personal YouTube channel, I mean,
I've seen
the guy is just out to lunch. The guy is just, I mean. He's completely
his biggest mark, isn't he? He's his biggest mark.
Yeah, and I've never been a huge. I mean, I remember the Ultimate Warrior when he was, in the late '80s and early '90s. I think it's perfectly cool to put him in the Hall of Fame. I think if you're going to have a worked Hall of Fame for a work sport, you should put the Ultimate Warrior in there because he was a huge star. But yeah, I've never been a hater of the guy, but he is, he's so far up his own ass, even to this day. That it's hard. I mean, like, who are these Ultimate Warrior fans? These people that have supposedly been fighting.
Read the comments.
Years.
Do you read the comments on his videos?
I know they're there, but I just wonder, like, where do these people come from?
That's the thing about YouTube, isn't it? Though it's like no matter how crazy the guy in the video you're watching is, people in the comment section watching him are so much worse because they're the people who watch them. These are the people who take time out of their day to watch. Like, people think Gorilla 199 is mad. It's like no. Read the comments, right? And he's Gore Vidal by comparison to some of these people coming down here. It's like that's the sad truth.
Well, I think we need to wrap this up here. I mean, we could talk about wrestling for the next fucking 10 hours, and I wouldn't care. But so I think it sounds like we all three enjoyed WrestleMania. Sounds like we all three enjoyed Raw. Dick, I think this was awesome. I
very much enjoyed it.
It was a good time having you here. We should do this again sometime.
We should.
If we're the next time we feel like we feel like having a wrestling fan three-way.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not gay if it's in a three-way.
I'll try and make sure. I'll try and make. Yeah, it's not gay if there's two men.
Right.
I'll try and make sure Napalm is fully restrained. If you come on.
Yes, I definitely want to do a total D-bag show with you guys, but I do want to make sure my safety can be guaranteed.
Yes.
Before...
We'll get you your retainer, and you can you'll pay your expenses and everything.
Awesome. For those of you who don't know, I can't imagine very many of you don't, but you can subscribe to Dick, his own YouTube channel, Dick Dynasty 666, and of course he also does his own wrestling show as a part of Total D-Bags. You should go check that out. And I don't mention it very much, but Doc, you have your own YouTube channel as well. You're Boar's Head Bill.
Yep.
And you upload some really awesome footage of indie wrestling from around the area for people who love independent wrestling. Check out Boar's Head Bill because it's quality independent wrestling content. I'm done, guys. What do you say?
I'm exhausted. I am expecting some ghost pepper chili tonight, and I am excited about that.
Lucky Jerry, I love ghost pepper sauce.
Yeah. All right. Well, Doc, I'll leave you to your chili. Dick, I'll leave you to whatever the hell you're going to do.
Thank you very much, fella. Thank you very much. See you later, Doc.
Okay.
Nice meeting you, Dick. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Dick. Pleasure as always, Doc. Everybody, we'll see you next week.